when somebody decided to invest in me, I never had this mentality, I'm gonna learn on someone else's dime. And I've never liked it, actually. I've always thought, you know what, if somebody trusts you enough to invest in you, then you learn what they want you to learn. And hopefully, as they contribute to your livelihood, you can contribute back to their business.
Oftentimes, the thread that makes us who we are is delicate and fine, and precise to say the least. And for Micheline Thompson, the fiber that makes her strong runs deep, and her appreciation for strength was something that she witnessed firsthand as a young girl in Lebanon.
In the early 80s, we had the US Marines that joined International European Forces that went to Lebanon at that time to provide stability. The area was in a very rough shape. In different areas, different suburbs, they had different military personnel, some English, some Brits, some Spanish, some French, Italian, so on and so forth. My neighborhood had the US Marines. So I was recruited to be a translator at that time and didn't know what was gonna be evolved. It's just like, you just don't know. I wanted to be helpful. They came to get me to translate. I translated, and that went onto a whole year of being in the field with them after school.
Her inherent need to understand the world around her for the sake of her future was evident. She would learn English, and she would learn about different cultures, and she would learn how to focus on success within the beauty industry.
At corporate, I did a lot, anywhere from field sales to director of business development, managing distribution for Unilever. And this was where my last position. I've spent all of that time in the beauty industry, totally focused, totally, one career.
One career until one day when her corporate position had just become too much. Micheline had to take a moment and looked at her surroundings, and she let them speak to her. Years ago, Micheline and her husband Mark saw a traveling military boot exhibit dedicated to our armed forces.
They had on a manicured lawn just all these military boots. They were well shined with dog tags hanging out of them. And I recall getting out of my car and walking through, and literally it emotionally moved me. And that resonated with me and with my husband. Well, back then it was my boyfriend. So yes, he was a keeper.
Flash forward to just a few years ago, and that same feeling that overwhelmed Micheline was the same feeling that pointed her in her next direction.
Months of thinking, what am I gonna do? And then all of a sudden I'm at this red light. I looked at Mark, who's driving, and I said, hey, do you recall the traveling exhibit? He's like, yeah. I'm like, whatever happened? He's like, I bet you they're sitting in some warehouse accumulating dust. And I'm like, gosh, I hope they didn't get thrown out. The light is still red. And I looked at him and I said, I know what I'm doing next. I'm going to take old military boots and I'm going to refinish them into children's shoes. And I will have a tagline that will read, from our soldiers' footsteps to our children's first steps.
After a bit of research, it was clear that using those boots for this reason didn't make much sense. But a company dedicated to initial steps with a foundation based on research and development was inherently necessary. MishMoccs was on its way, and Micheline designed a slipper that goes beyond simply being cute.
When I worked with Dr. Sokol out of Akron Children's Hospital, and she spent over a quarter of a century early development, here's what she said to me. When you source products, make sure it's good products. And I'm looking at her, I said, well, what do you mean? And she's like, well, keep in mind, kids chew everything. And I thought, she's right. Another thing too, she says shoes should do this. Any child's shoes, even up to 2 years old, should do this. If they don't, a child, when they walk, it's really important their feet to have direct contact with hard surface. So when we're talking about Nikes, with all due respect to Nikes, or any hard soles, it's taking that sensory out. So therefore, often a child might have, the balance, the coordination, all of that gets. And then another thing too. So here's my own touch to this, is kind of new. So our moccasins, they sit, they're high moccasins. They sit about 1/4 of an inch to 1/3 of an inch than average shoe out there. And the reason being is, to me, when this part is very busy with their little toes and soles of their feet, they're walking and doing whatever they want to, or they think they can run and whatever, then this part here stays solid around their ankles.
Now MishMoccs is literally taking leaps as they make tiny first steps matter for the sake of the leaders of tomorrow, and each design, each slipper is laced with Micheline's vision, passion, and success.